Decades ago, Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." Yet, even today, many people, you and me, we remain silent. The National Crime Victimization Survey reported that 70% of witnesses of assault tend to sit down and remain silent. Moreover, the National Commission for the Promotion of Equality shows that nearly all victims of racial and religious discrimination choose not to report to anyone. Like them, often we say nothing and watch destruction of things that matter in our life, such as equality, justice, and freedom. We have let history record our silence. Was Dr. King right? Have our lives begun to end? I was born and raised in Indonesia. I have studied in Singapore and the United States of America for almost 8 years, and I have been taught that I am and we are citizens of the world. In order for equality, justice, and freedom to ring for all people, we, citizens of the world, must speak up. It is because silence breeds torture. Silence breeds pain, but speaking up brings change. Let us think back to the year of 1998. What was happening at Juniata College? I am sure that Juniata students were still complaining about baker food or monstrous amount of work in front of the students, and that classes were not being canceled, even though there were snowstorms and that slippery sheets of ice. But what was happening in my home country, Indonesia, in 1998? Indonesia was not as peaceful as Huntington. For 32 years, dictatorship crushed people's voices and worsened ethnic-based class inequality. This enforced silence brought about the tragedy of human torture. In May 1998, there was a massacre of my ethnic group, the Chinese Indonesians. The Chinese Indonesians, regardless of age, men and women, were tortured, raped, and burned to death. Jakarta Globe, Indonesia's leading news source, reported that more than 168 women were gang raped during the rioting. Many were raped in front of their family members. Over 1,000 people were killed at the time. Back then, I was just a 7-year-old kid. My family and I hid at home, closed our curtains, and saw the military prowling outside of my house. The only defense we had was just a taser on my dad's shivering hand. Hiding for our lives was bleak. It was frightening, and it is still a heartbreaking memory. The long suppression of people's right to speak out resulted in this tragedy of human torture. Elie Wiesel, a Nobel Prize winner for speaking out against violence, said, "I swore never to be silent whenever and wherever human beings endure suffering and humiliation. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." Even though torture in Indonesia may seem miles away to you, the painful memory is still very close to my heart. Today, you do not have to travel miles away to find pain caused by silence, as this case happened a few years ago in our community. Our neighbor university, Penn State, faced a case of child sexual abuse by Jerry Sandusky. The prosecuting attorney reported that those 45 victims had been silenced. Penn Live, by the Patriot News, reported that one was afraid of being rediscovered. Some were dissuaded from being honest, and some were even being scolded and bullied into silence. Even the janitors who witnessed him engaging in child sexual abuse in the year of 2000 did not report this scandal. The news came out 10 years after the act. The American Psychological Association reported that Adults who were sexually abused as children experience depression, anxiety, and self-destructive behaviors. Moreover, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett said, "There are monsters among us. There are people who will hurt children for their own sexual satisfaction. And we do have to report. We do have to follow up. I know that unfortunately, we are going to see conduct like that again because there are people who will do this again and again and again." These helpless young children needed justice. However, long silence brought eternal pain for those victims. Let us imagine if people in Indonesia and people around the world had spoken up about class inequality sooner, many tortured lives could have been saved. Imagine if people had spoken up sooner on behalf of those helpless children, their painful life could have been avoided. And imagine if heroes of the world, such as Dr. Martin Luther King, had chosen to remain silent. What would our society be like today? Silence breeds torture and pain. But when our voices are heard, speaking up can create change for a better society. Our home, Juniata College, is committed to creating active, supporting, and safe environment so that equality, justice, and freedom can reign for all. Juniata has a bias response team, notice of concern, and multiple events such as Bailey Oratorical, open forums, and student panels. And the way for Juniata to fulfill its commitment is for us, the community, to use our constitutional right that we are born free to speak out for ourselves and speak out for others. And through every piece of our writing, our artwork, and our speeches, Juniata and the world will hear our voices. And tonight, the world hear my voice. Together, we can create change for a better society by speaking up. Decades ago, Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. With love, courage is born. And through this courage, we, free citizens of the world, will speak up, be heard, and create change. And never again we will let history record our silence. Let history record our voice."